Today is July the 1st, which your current actually means retro, the elders, the grown folk, current, new generations, working together in an intergenerational effort to bring about peace, empowerment, and a better quality of life. Team T represent for this purpose teaching, training. E represents education, empowerment, used to be entertainment depending on the milieu. A represent advocate, advocating. And for those that consider themselves activists, M, mentoring, moving out, moving up, moving on. My name is Malik. Today is an interesting day. We're just coming out of an election, primary election, here in Illinois. We talked about that recently, about how I and others were tired of being pimped by this Democratic and Republican system, where independents that would need to split their vote and choose the candidate that they want to help, that they want to get elected, are actually suppressed because this system is a trick. You have to declare in the primary, and I know it's been like that, and I know you're saying, well, why are you talking about it? I'm talking about it because we need to change it. You understand? We need an independent political party, just like you got the Democratic and Republican Party and other parties. You end up with 1 out of 5 people in Illinois voting in the city. We don't know yet, at least I don't know about downstate. 1 in 5, that's 20% of the population has chosen their candidates. But 80% of us didn't vote. Now that ought to tell you something is wrong with the system, huh? It's people calling me talking about, well, I was frustrated, I did this, so I didn't vote. True that, I understand. A lot of people didn't vote because the system. And that's why, we look and we know. The politicians know the trick. They do. One of the headlines say that the governor, Pritzker, chose the person that won the Republican spot. Now his job is to beat him. Think. He was spending money to help Irving, a black man that declared himself a Republican, probably in order to be able to benefit from that $40 million that a white man was giving him. But Negroes, so addicted to the tit of the Democrat until you can see nothing but Republican. And then only 1 in 5. And that ain't just talking about Negroes. That's talking about voters, period. Let's show them this headline, Brother Amari, so they understand I'm not just jaw-jerking. The truth is interesting, and it's a sadness. 1 in 5. That's the worst since 2008, so they say. Now in 2008, you had somebody else in the White House. But what happened is things have slipped back, not forward. The overhead that talks about this tomorrow, I don't know if I need to come off the screen. Yeah, there we go. Now, it's a little blurry in here, but maybe that's because of my glasses. You see it. Why bother? Oh, I'm not talking to Amari, I'm talking about the people at home. Why bother voting? Look at that spot. When I went to do early voting, I was the only one in there. And the truth is, people are tired. And they're asking the question, why bother? And that's a good question. Why bother voting? And we see people have become so disenchanted with politicians until they don't even bother. A couple of things I just want to mention here. Jonathan Jackson, he won his race. Interesting, if you read the article. Didn't have a lot of money, $136,000, I think, or something like that, until the very last minutes, days. And then a special interest group dropped a lot of money. We'll see where that goes. But the thing we talked about before, as it relates to these so-called royal family, I don't want to say entitlements, but it appears that the voters chose their choice. Interesting. Reverend Jackson has been a pioneer for ages, has done great things and helped a whole lot of people and influenced the changing of a whole lot of things that existed. It's true. Had one son, I think he was over the 2nd Congressional District. Had a situation, so he had to leave office. Now he got another son. I think it's over the 1st Congressional District. Took Bobby Rush's place. There were 17 candidates in that race, but the Jackson won. And we mentioned it here on this program. Omari had it up there, and we talked about it. That when he announced the piece I saw, he had Emil Jones, the elder, Chuy Garcia. And I mentioned the idea and the fact that what I was seeing was that he had no one representing his peer group, his age group, just the elders, those representing his father's age group, generation. And at the end of the day, it was the elders, his father's generation, so it seems, that had the best organizational skills. Understand? They had the best candidate. So a lot of what a lot of people want to say to the elders now is that you old. That was then. This is now. Mind your business. Senior citizen, elder try to say something, parent try to say something, grandparent try to say something. These new generations, they just talk all over you. They don't want to hear nothing you got to say. They figure everything comes out of their head. Now you see, you might need to listen. You might need to learn from the root, from the rock. Jesse Jackson has produced 2 congressmen. All you other folk that's done produce your offspring. They didn't win. You didn't win. So now maybe you'll go back. And maybe you'll understand that that old-time Negro, Jesse Jackson really came into the black thing. But the foundation was Negro. That's what he came into. Emil Jones, when I say Emil Jones, I don't mean no disrespect, but he's retired now. Chuy Garcia. Chuy Garcia is not a Negro, but he was working with Negroes, and that's when they was coming out of the Negro label. And then when you got so sophisticated, talking about black power, where was black power the other night, huh? Where was Negro power? I don't know, but it looked like it was behind Jonathan. Now, I know all his votes didn't come from senior citizens. I know that. But I'm just saying his root. So we need a retro current effort of intergenerational cooperation and stop all of this foolishness. The old against the young, the male against the female. Foolishness, Negro. You gotta stop it. Now, Danny Davis, they beat on him because of his age. But he survived and he won. Oh, but they made a big issue. He old, he been there forever. Woo, woo, woo. But at the end of the day, he's the one the voters chose, the few that did vote. So those are the things that we need to look at as it relates to the election. You know what I'm saying? I really am somewhat concerned that Negroes are so limited that they cannot see beyond the Democratic Party. That's a problem. They said that the black female was the backbone of the Democratic Party. Well, she might be. But that's about all they got, seemed like. And enough of them didn't come out to change too much of anything. And they say, and I believe it, the black man is going to the Republican Party, not because he's become a Republican, but because of the fact that he's tired of these lying Democrats. And that's why I advocate that some lawyer, some politician didn't know the correct process. Call it what you want to, but let it be an independent party. That people can choose who they want at any point, primary or general. This system you got here, you think it make all of the sense. But it ain't never made no sense for nobody but you. So much for that. Now, the headline I was going to lead off with was a headline dealing with the mass shooting in the Loop this morning. 5 people shot, 2 of them killed. 5 people shot in the Loop, downtown Chicago. Let them hear that, Amara. Let them hear that. It's a shame. Lawlessness.
Right near Wells and close to the Eisenhower Expressway. We've got Joni right now live with the breaking details. Joni, earlier we said that 5 had been shot, 2 had died. Where do things stand right now?
That's the case. 5 people shot, 2 dead. All of the people who were shot are young males. We still have a crime scene here at Wells Street and Ida B. Wells. They have cleared the street so that traffic can move through, but you can see there are multiple police cars, police officers, red tape that is pulled across that parking garage across the street. And this all happened early this morning about 1:44. And it's right next to a fire department station as well. We have multiple police units called to the scene. They tried, the fire department, they tried to respond to the shooting, but the scene was just too dangerous. They had to wait until it was safe enough to go in because fights were breaking out here after the shooting. As more police arrived, they determined that a group of males had an argument with a man who shot at them and then got into a car heading west. A 29-year-old was shot in the head, died at Stroger Hospital. A 26-year-old shot in the chest was also taken to Stroger Hospital. 3 other males were shot. They were taken to Northwestern Memorial. And a street pastor talked about this horrible gun violence in Chicago.
At 1:44, there was a shooting of some people who seemed to have come from an event. Some of the people self-transported, but victims are at Northwestern and Stroger at this time. Seems 5 people shot. A terrible start to a weekend that's notoriously violent and hopefully not a microcosm of what is to come.
Been a lot of gunfire happen here. Looking inside, there are at least 24 shots fired overnight. Police looked at some security video in the area, and they think that they saw someone take off in a car going west, though right now they don't have a description of that car and no one in custody. Reporting live, I'm Joni Lum. Now back to you.
You know, it's a sadness. And then, before I could finish my outline, another headline. Police officer shot this morning. Show them that one, Brother Amari. It should be at the very top. Now that's crazy. As I was coming, they was talking about this situation where the police officer just got shot this morning. Well, while we get into that one, I hope it went through. Well, I did see it. All right, it seems like that won't happen. Well, if you're listening to this program, you probably heard that story somehow, because it was live, that's probably what the issue is, because it was a live situation. We'll go to the other one. And the other one is talking about the people shot out in Grisham. Now, that situation is just another situation that's back on the top side. And I think one of the things we have to look at is that it's the sense of lawlessness. So criminals feel they can just do anything. You know, this thing about shooting the police, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. How did people ever get it in their mind that they can just go around shooting the police? It don't make sense. I would stroll down because I think, all right, that'll work for now. And then we'll come back to this other piece.
32 special report. We take a close look at the carjacking crisis plaguing the city and also the suburbs. I spent hours with the Vehicular Hijacking Task Force, and I expected action because nearly 5 cars are jacked in Cook County every single day.
Day and night. Lieutenant Patrick Donovan and Director Ro Khan combed the Cook County streets on the prowl for carjackers. On this night, the mission is like a needle in a haystack.
A car that was hijacked overnight in Chicago has just hit on a tracking through Toyota. So we're trying to get to it.
The Cook County Sheriff's on this detail is made up of 8 teams, and their most valuable resource is grounded.
Any luck with PH?
Negative. I called the hangar. Both of them are down for maintenance issues.
The Chicago Vehicular Carjacking Task Force is a partnership with Cook County Sheriff's, CPD, State Police, the FBI, and Homeland Security. Their role is to snuff out carjackers and recover the stolen vehicles. The 2 police helicopters used make it easier to follow suspects without a chase, and it tracks when they get rid of evidence and where they go.
Stops on Independence at 13th. Anybody have eyes on it?
The rideshare driver was pulled out of the car at gunpoint at 3 in the morning in Garfield Park. 13 hours later, it's being tracked as it's headed right in our path.
There's a carjacked car.
Yep.
Chicago's on it.
We got eyes on it.
Minutes later, the carjackers crashed into several vehicles. One suspect bailed.
Child, juvenile in custody. Is that common?
Out of a carjacked car. Unfortunately, it is.
Turns out it was a 17-year-old released into the custody of his mother. The average age of a carjacker in Cook County is 15 to 25 years old. The SUV was damaged from the accident and recovered in an area on the west side, dubbed Ditch Alley, where several hijacked cars have been found.
We do get a variety of individuals that are doing additional crimes, dealership burglaries, ATM burglaries, shootings, robberies. You're not going to use your own vehicle to go commit a crime.
This map from the Cook County Sheriff's Department shows the hot spots for carjackings this year. The crimes are widespread and happening north of the city, west and south. The county is seeing nearly 5 carjackings on a daily basis. And before we knew it, we were on the lookout for another one.
2022 Toyota Corolla.
This time, the suspects are heavily armed.
40 minutes ago, we had a female driver near 71st and Halstead, and they saw 3 long guns in the car, so 3 rifles.
After an hour of searching, the hatchback was finally recovered, but the suspects were nowhere to be found.
Looking at that car versus the previous vehicle, did you get the idea that they would come back for that car?
Oh, for sure. For sure. They parked it pointing out toward the alley. They thought they were just hiding it for a little while.
It will take a lot of detective work to track them down. So far, 20% of carjackers are arrested in the county, 80% walk free.
At the beginning of the year, the first 3 months, they had decreased, and that was positive. And lately, there's been an uptick again. And there's some things that have been helpful. We're recovering more cars, and we're recovering them in half the time it used to take, which is huge.
From January through June 20th of 2021, there were 756 carjackings in Cook County. For that same time period this year, there's been 834 carjackings. It's a daily grind for Donovan and Con, but they believe it's all worth it.
We're making some good progress. That's why it's not, that's why we're not defeated. It's still promising. It's a big problem, but we're making a lot of headway.
So Tia, you said that one child, 17 years old, turned over to the custody of his mother. We keep hearing about how young these carjackers are. So why are they unable to punish them or keep them? What's happening?
The big problem here is a lot of adults that are suspects, they use the children because they know that those crimes will be considered light in the juvenile justice system. So that's why that 17-year-old was home before I was by the end of the day. So.
And obviously they're making great efforts here. The task force is put together and we heard from everybody, but why aren't they more successful than they are?
I think there's two factors here. One is they need a newer helicopter because the helicopter that they had for that night that we were out there, it was grounded. It had some issues, mechanical issues. They use a helicopter with CPD and they also use a helicopter with Homeland Security. So they're a little bit older. So there are issues and so they can't track as efficiently as they would like to. And then the automakers, not every single automaker actually complies. So when they call certain automakers to track that car, they're not readily available to start the tracking process. Now, we do know that cars made after 2015, they have tracking ability, but the one that seems to work the best with law enforcement seems to be OnStar, which is a GM product. So oftentimes there's a delay. In this case, that was a Toyota, and so there was a delay in the tracking process.
So what are the numbers like real quickly? How many are getting convicted? How many of these carjackers?
So I know it's really alarming, and when you hear it in that report, you're probably like, did I really hear that? 20% of carjackers in Cook County are tracked down, and 80% are just out there. They're out there, probably the repeat offenders that we're talking about every single day here on the news.
Lots of work to do.
A lot of work to do.
Tia Ewing, thanks.
Now, that sounds sickening. 20%, but yet you keep talking about they only children, their brain ain't developed. You need to get you some helicopters or something, because the truth of the matter is, this is ridiculous. 80% of them let go. This boy released to his mama? Hell, he was with his mama when he committed the crime, as relates to custody, and then you release him back to his mama. That's insane. It makes absolutely no sense. Even if you just keep them, have another system where they don't just get back out on the streets to do it again. A culture of criminal jubilation. Because grown folk, it happened before Trump. Some folks thought Trump was going to do something about it. He didn't. So I just need to say that, but I'm not going to say who was before Trump. But it started getting crazy then. And this thing about because the person is younger, man, they've been saying that ever since I was a kid. If you wanted to commit a crime, you get somebody that's a juvenile, and then the case would be this and that. That ain't new. But what happened is, back then, even though juveniles got detained, they got locked up. But today, they don't get nothing but let go. Now we finna look at a piece that says, Biden's supposed to be tough. Have a history of being tough on crime. What's her name? That Harris person has a history of being tough on crime. Now here's a piece by a person that I think bears listening to.
The pro-life movement.
Think about it. Biden and Harris were supposed to be the hope to bring order to these streets. Listen to what this man got to say. The piece that says, Jesse Walters, Biden used to be tough on crime.
But they'll do whatever they can get away with.
And since the Democrats are letting them do whatever they want, bullets are flying and people are dying. The last 48 hours has hit pretty close to home for me. A mother in New York City who was shot and killed near my apartment. She was on a walk with her 3-month-old. Asia Johnson was pushing the baby in a stroller on the Upper East Side near where I live when a hooded gunman came up from behind and put a bullet in her head at point-blank range. The baby's okay, but now without a mother. My wife, she sees the paper today. She says, I don't feel safe. She says she wants to move. A couple of weeks ago, a guy wearing all black with a knife chased a man down 2 blocks away from my apartment in broad daylight, trying to stab him. We may have to get that concealed carry permit that's now legal here. Over in Philly, my hometown, a 21-year-old woman went to a bar and never came home. Jaylene Holton was murdered by a psycho Tuesday night who went on a shooting rampage, all because he was upset about being kicked out of the bar. So he came back and opened fire.
She was a good kid. She worked. They were going to be here about 15, 20 minutes, and that's when the altercation broke out and whatever, this guy started shooting. When are people going to get fed up with this reckless shooting in the city? It's the Wild West out here. I mean, cowards shooting at a bar from 100 feet away or more, and somebody goes out for 10, 15 minutes and they're dead.
You heard it. Philly's turning into the Wild Wild West. There's shootouts every night. Chicago can't get much worse. Chicago police stopped 27-year-old Jerome Hazley earlier this month when he just started firing at officers. Look at this, hitting 2 of the officers. This was just a random traffic stop. Police wonder if they're going to die every time they pull a car over. Hazley has now been charged with attempted murder. The common denominator in all these cities is this: gun-toting felons keep getting soft sentences and bailed out of jail and just prey on the people in their neighborhoods. Soros DAs and soft judges are getting Americans killed. Look at Tulare County, California, where 2 men from Washington State were able to just walk out of jail with no bail after getting arrested with enough fentanyl to kill the entire city of Houston. 19-year-old Benito Madrigal and 25-year-old Jose Zendejas were busted at a traffic stop Friday with 150,000 fentanyl pills, nearly $1 million worth of poison. They were booked into the county pretrial facility, but less than a day later, they were walking out of the jail door free as a bird. Why? Well, County Court Commissioner Mickey Verissimo conducted a risk assessment and decided these 2 guys with enough fentanyl to kill millions weren't a risk. Possessing this much fentanyl, these guys aren't just low-level drug dealers. This is cartel level. They have to be pretty high up on the food chain to be holding that much weight. But Verissimo set them free. And she's laughing all the way to the bank as she takes home nearly $200,000 a year salary. The county sheriff blasted her.
This assessment was done behind the scenes, basically.
Look at
without
his
ever contacting
shirt,
me as the
savage.
sheriff or even asking me what I believe the risk.
So don't get
to
mad
our
at me
public
when I say
safety.
savage.
I learned of this release and I was
Savage.
infuriated.
That's how they
It's
see it.
incredibly frustrating when we are responsible for public safety. We want people to be safe, but we have to be able to hold people accountable to our court system. In California, we're just not seeing that.
But that's not all. A congressional source tells Primetime that these 2 pill traffickers were illegal aliens. But in California, you're not even allowed to ask if a suspect is a foreign national. It's a sanctuary state. In most states, when you catch illegals with 150,000 fentanyl pills, you hold them and you call ICE. ICE picks them up and they start deportation. But not in California. You can break into our country, kill our people with poison pills, get arrested, and just walk free. These 2 dealers are never going to show up to the hearing. They're free to sell more death. It's no wonder why police are retiring and quitting in record numbers. Public officials aren't holding up their end of the deal and are creating a very unsafe environment for law enforcement. Plus, some of these young kids have no respect for cops at all. Here's what happened in Orlando when a police officer detained a 19-year-old for drinking and hitting on underage girls at a mall.
Atlanta police, stop. Stop. Because you have an open container of alcohol in public. You think it's appropriate to walk up to a group of young girls and ask their ages right away?
I was just trying to verify their age before I
looked at them. You don't think they were definitely minors. And I'm gonna get you out of here with just a verbal warning on the alcohol. Okay? I'm suggesting you leave the mall, okay?
Yeah, I'll leave.
That way we don't get any more issues about you. You don't get into any trouble. You have anything on you that would drugs, guns, bombs, anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
I smoked earlier though.
So you have some weed on you?
No, not anymore.
Okay. Do you mind if I conduct a search of your person real quick?
I don't think you can.
Is that what's inside your bag?
Yeah. That's it.
Just the weed?
Yeah.
Okay. Take off your bag. Don't resist. You're gonna make it a lot worse than you need to. Take off your bag. Don't make this worse. Get out of here. Get out of here. Signal 43.
Jesus! The officer was giving the guy a break. He wasn't even going to get arrested. He was getting let off with a warning, and this 19-year-old Sebastian Roman returned the favor by shooting at him. People are pulling into the Olive Garden for lunch outside the mall, and bullets are whizzing by their windows. What kind of country are we living in? If only the Democrats had listened to this one senator back in 1991, maybe crime wouldn't be so bad right now.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1, we passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation, you get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice.
Joe Biden used to be strong on narcotics and tough on crime, but he's given in to the radical left in order to keep his power.
You only arrest for the purpose of dealing with a felony that's committed, and I don't count drunk driving as a felony.
That right there was music to Paulie P's ears. And guess what? Paul Pelosi could have been charged with a felony, but the DA, hey Allie, only charged him with a misdemeanor. So drug dealers, trigger pullers, and Democrat drunk drivers are getting special treatment, but if you're a law-abiding gun owner, you're the problem. Just ask New York Governor Kathy Hochul.
Do you have the numbers to show that it's the concealed carry permit holders that are committing crimes?
I don't need to have numbers. I don't have to have a data point to say that this is going to. All I know is I have a responsibility to the people of this state to have sensible gun safety laws.
The lady doesn't care who the criminals are. She just wants to take away your gun. She doesn't want you to be able to protect yourself from the criminals. If she'd looked into the numbers at all, I know that's very stressful for her and requires a lot of effort. She'd know that states with higher rates of gun ownership don't correlate to states with more gun homicides. In fact, in many cases, states with high gun ownership rates have lower murder rates. This is who we're dealing with. Ignorant politicians who confuse white guilt with compassion. So protect yourselves out there, America. Life is getting more dangerous every single day. And since the politicians aren't doing anything about it, it's up to you to make things right.
Now, you know, some of you all have seen it, but Retro Current Teen, educate. That's what we're trying to do. Empower. So we bring these clips. And no, we do not own the right of any of them. And we hope that it don't create a problem with none of them. But I have a feeling that many people might have missed some of this information that Omari and I find to present. Because me talking is just another person talking. That's why we bring you these clips. I agree with that man 100%. You saw Biden. We see what's happening. It's clear. But somehow, before Trump, during Trump, and now during Biden, these so-called state's attorneys all over the nation, I mean, they don't care nothing about the citizens' safety in life. They only cater to the criminals. What a disgrace. Now, Amari, find that piece with Tim Scott, Clarence ain't going nowhere. And then we're going to come to that, and then we're going to transition. But this piece is important as it relates to part of what's happening in society. People now see Tim Scott here. I like Tim Scott. Tim Scott, I guess you might call a conservative. A Republican. I consider myself a conservative, but I ain't got to the Republican point yet. I'm independent. But he said something, and then the mayor of Chicago said something. Then I want you to think, because I think Tim Scott is 100% right. There's a lot of us that think that this mess that we have been living in for the last 30 years is unnecessary. And just because we Negroes don't mean we Republicans. It don't. It means that we got common sense. Common sense is you don't let a person steal, kill, and you do nothing but let them go. You don't let them bring in all that dope, and they illegal, because you know when you let them go, they going back over the border. And you don't open the border so people can come in here illegally and have savage and act like a savage on their shirt. It's a simple matter. It don't call for being a racist. It don't call for being none of the negativity that we have been bombarded with. It's ridiculous. Brother, run that piece.
I think that the greatest threat to the liberal coalition are black conservatives who stand up and think for ourselves. We represent the fact that the African American community is not a monolithic community. If you could ever break the stronghold that the Democrats have in the African American community, the entire coalition falls apart. And think about this, Jesse. President Biden's approval ratings have never been lower in the African American community and the Hispanic community. The last thing people want to see are people like Clarence Thomas, Ben Carson, and myself standing up and making common sense popular everywhere in the nation. And oh, by the way, we happen to be black. That is a great threat to the entire coalition on the left. So they want to shut it down, cancel Clarence Thomas because he dares to think for himself. But more importantly, don't you think for yourself, because they want the price to be so high that you don't ever dare to leave wherever they say you should sit.
Now, 100%. You understand? But now, you want to say because he's a Republican, you want to stop right there. Please, go somewhere. Now, Brother Murray, find that piece where Lightfoot is responding to Clarence Thomas's communication concerning the Roe situation. You know what I'm saying? There's a piece there that is very interesting. That piece right there. Yeah, run that. I hope they can hear it. This is the mayor of Chicago. This is how she responds to Clarence Thomas.
Supreme Court yesterday. And if you read Clarence Thomas' concurrence, he said, "Thank you, Clarence Thomas."
Oh, those beats, F-U-C-K. That's what the beats are.
We are going to stand idly by when they take our rights, our right to marry, our right to have children, our right to...
Now. Now, that's the math. That's a lot of energy. You know what I'm saying? Actually, she should have been running to be the head of that group. Because as the math, you know, the energy she put in and the way she get sent off when something don't agree with her position on that, man, she go off into real savage mode. She do. But now, I want you to just think about this. So when females see her, listen to her, see? Example. That election is coming up. It better be more than 1 out of 5 to go vote, or she gonna be there again. If only 20% of the people vote, she win. But that election is down the road. Now, Amari, we're gonna transition to some of these pieces, and we're gonna run them back to back. Now, these pieces, some of y'all are gonna say, well, why you keep running that? Because I think it's got value. These kids climbing on the city bus, tweaking, acting a fool. Then another one, females fighting in the street. And then another one, Summer of Joy. And then you got another one there, 2 really, females fighting in Chicago Street, and then Summer of Joy, and then a piece by Cass Jones, Fayetteville, North Carolina, at a concert. Just run those pieces. I hope we can get all of them in there. And then at the end of that, I'll make that comment. I don't want to just make a lot of comments. Just run this piece, Mara, and y'all look at it. These are gals, females. Look at them. Look at them. Just running wild. And what is this with them and they nasty behind? What make them think that, look at this, what type of ignorant stupidity is this? What's with a female and they behind? They think the only thing, what the hell? What? It don't make sense. You out there just shaking your behind, looking stupid. Why? Why and how have we allowed this to become the norm? Makes no sense. On the bus, stopping traffic. Now you can run that, but now this is look like a family affair. Some more foolishness. Females. You don't see too much of the male thing. These are females. Mothers. Think. And in a minute you're gonna see one of those females, offspring, little old thing. Look at this here. Females. One of them got children and one of them pregnant. Just look. Look at them. What a disgrace. You shouldn't show that. That makes us look bad. No, you make yourself look bad because that's what you have squatted out. That's what you've allowed to be. That's what you've allowed to run down the streets and run free. You did that. You produced that. And the damn state's attorneys all over the country allow this foolishness. You need to lock both of them up until they get some sense. Look at them. Just like 2 dogs, 2 bulls locking horns. Look at them. They must have their real hair or it'd be done come out by now. And that's what they keep saying. Trying to lose my hat. Hell of a thing. Now they're gonna be like that until the video go off. Now the grown man might be somebody's father, it seems like, a grandfather. He gonna come up and tell that other woman to call the police. Look at that. Just look at it. Them are your children. You produced that. You allowed that. You understand? And you want it to continue to be. How can it be? How can you, Negro, how can you live with yourself and act like this is normal? Go to another one. That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Look at that. What a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And now why you find another one? Be the same drummer, but I want to drummer it into you so you can see. Oh, I know you saw it already, but you just want to run on and pass it. No, I'm going to put it in your face. You understand? I'm going to put it in your face. Why? Because it's in your face and you do nothing. So I'm going to put it here and talk crazy. Yes, I am. I'm going to put it here and talk crazy. They seen that one already. Now, you know, the thing is, as long as society, run that one, Omar. This is some more Chicago action. Girl, once again. Look at her. Look at that. And then, this been going on ever since this administration been in place. And somebody want to say COVID relief. This ain't got nothing to do with that. This is because of the fact that they know they can. This is because when they hear that person talk, she talk like they act. Look at her. F. Clarence Thomas. Well, that's what you see when you have that type of attitude. That's what they hear. That's how they act. F the police. F grown folk. They're just doing this all over the country. What a disgrace. And summer is just beginning. Females, supposed to be mothers of the future. And you talking about Roe being knocked down? Should have been knocked down before them clowns got here. It's ridiculous. You know, there's one other piece I want you to show at this theater, the one in North Carolina. Because Chicago, hell, we'll be showing them all day with showing these Chicago gals out there fighting like a bunch of hyenas and wild creatures. But that's it. That's what we got to look forward to. That's the best this city can do. Make excuses. Enable. Allow. What sickness? How long will you tolerate it? Don't make sense. How long will you continue to allow children to just act like what was on that boy's shirt, savages? When will you stop them? When will grown folks be grown folk? Yeah, sure that one, Mom. Look at that. Look at it. Women. Look. Women. Huh? The backbone of the Democratic Party, huh? Woo-wee. Out of hand. Out of control. All over this land. And Biden and Harris, if it's all over the land, then that's a national situation. Something got to be done about this from a national level and let it roll down. This should not be tolerated. And all days we showing the Negroes, but whites and Hispanics and Asians doing the same thing in their areas, on their social media pages, on their news sources. They getting the same type of feeds. I'm showing this because I'm a Negro. And I'm showing you what affects the Negro. And it's ridiculous. It's a disgrace. And you need to do something about it. All these old soft behind state's attorneys and lawyers don't make no sense. Don't make no sense. And before we go into this situation as we get ready to get out of here that happened in Texas with this truck, show that piece, Omari, about this dude getting killed on Facebook Live. Now, I'm gonna say something here, and there ain't no disrespect on that level, but it's something that you should be aware of. And some of the terminology in the street is what it is. And sometimes we, you just passed it, Omar. Back down. down, down, down. Keep it. I don't know. For me, down must be for you up. See, what happens is, you know, this is an awkward system. And since you don't have time to really, we used to call it rehearse or pre-plan. I walk in, he come out, we sit here, and the next thing you know, keep going. Next thing you know, we on the act right there. Now this piece is ugly. But
Use
just think.
Facebook Live to reach people and make them laugh, but everyone did not find his humor and messages to be funny.
I'm the president of Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Terrell was a comedian. He disrespected people, okay, they got mad. But this is nothing compared. Words can't kill you, but a gun can.
Okay, we got action.
That's the sound of gunshots as Terrell did a Facebook Live from this chair outside his family's Ypsilanti home on Tuesday. That Facebook Live would be his last one.
2 gunmen got out, shot at Real, killed Real.
Terrell's mother says it was all allegedly over the comedian making fun of a video of someone getting beat down.
But my son put up a video of her son, or the boy getting knocked out. A lot of people didn't like Real, so what? People cannot kill people for talking.
But this family says that's exactly what went down.
A family was mad at Terrell. They got on live saying they was coming over here to slap me and kill him.
Fox 2 reached out to the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office, and they say they are actively investigating the shooting near Nash and Tyler as the search for those responsible continues. This heartbroken family wants justice, and they want anyone responsible for this crime to turn themselves in.
I know who did it. They should know who did it. Everybody who watched it live should know who did it. You killed him in the broad daylight at 11 o'clock, so evidently you want to pay for your crime.
And this mom hopes justice will come soon.
God got the last say. But right now the devil came through, and he done took my son. I just want justice. I know the police got to do their job, but I'm praying.
In Ypsilanti, Ingrid Kelly, Fox 2 News.
Now let me tell you something. You know, that's a situation that could have been totally avoided. I'm not talking about those people, but I'm talking about how they are referred to.
On Friday,
they refer to that dude as a lame.
Doubled.
Days
They
after
do.
the U.S. Supreme Court.
They refer to that dude, his family, as goofies. What he was doing is lame. He knew he didn't stand on enough to do what he was doing. He know. He doing it, getting in people's business. That's what they mean when they say mind your business. Those of you that's out there doing that, he got killed live on Facebook. Being a what? Goofy. Yes, I said that. Stop being a goofy. You out here doing what you're doing. And see what happened? Came to your house. And his mama talking about they can't, well they did. He knew that he was not of status to be running his mouth, calling himself a comedian. Man, that's silly. It happens too often. Stop pretending. Some things, you know, you just have to know. You ain't cut out for that. You laughing, you think it's funny? They came and took your life. And look at his mama. You can look. She's enabling him. She did. Place of her telling him, boy, stop being silly. Cut it out. I know he grown. Somebody should have told him, man, you know, everybody in town know who you are. You keep running your mouth. You keep doing this. You keep doing that. People kill you, and they do. For those of you that's alive, I know it includes me. Because I be talking what I be talking here. There are those that would say, dude, and I have people on the particular radio write in and say, man, be careful because You're right. We all take a risk. We all are at risk. But I try my best not to call people out or get in people's business on that level. So y'all have to be careful, including me and everybody else. We have to be careful because they will kill you. Now, that piece about these people down there in Texas, now we need to start off though with the Supreme Court allows Biden to end Trump-era stay in Mexico. And then we'll come back to that Houston piece where these Houston truck drivers faces 20 years a hit. Let's see can we find some of that, Omari, and then we'll be ready to almost be out of here. The Supreme Court says, well, should I say, allows Biden to end Trump-era. Yeah, run that piece there. Now, this is serious business. Biden, them, as soon as they got in, they told those people all over that area, come to America, come to America, come to America.
Right now,
and that's what they're doing.
Department of Public Safety. Lieutenant, it's always good having you, and thank you for your service under these obviously difficult times. I was just wondering if the Supreme Court were to surprise people here and say that that policy has no standing. In other words, we can't let them stay in Mexico, then what?
Well, good afternoon, Neil. That's a good question. I mean, right now, as Griff mentioned, the numbers that we're seeing, I mean, by far, I mean, has escalated to compared to last year, especially in the Del Rio sector. The Del Rio sector right now is the #1 area along the southwest border with the most encounters compared to the Rio Grande Valley. So all I can tell you right now, Neil, if that's the case, we're going to continue seeing this influx of immigrants coming across our borders. And as it is right now, Neil, the federal government has not even acted upon the Remain in Mexico policy that's been in place ever since last year. They refused to do it. So that's why the state of Texas has to continue to expand our operations with Operation Lone Star. The governor just mentioned it today. We're going to continue to expand more operations by expanding commercial vehicle inspections along those main corridors on the highways to focus on human smuggling, and also include more special agents and troopers to this specific area of the Del Rio sector to focus on stash houses, human smuggling, to try to crack down on these individuals that are taking full advantage of these immigrants. And that's why we're seeing this influx of human smuggling events along the southern border right now.
You know, Lieutenant, what did you make of the administration, the White House spokesman, saying that the border is closed? Was that news to you?
You know, Neil, that's inaccurate, and the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, especially what took place in San Antonio on Monday, that would not be happening right now if the federal government would enact those policies. If they would take a more aggressive stance on immigration to focus on the Mexican government as well to keep these immigrants from crossing into the United States. And it all starts from the initial messaging from the very beginning from last year, when they were essentially told that right now we have an open border, and that's why we're seeing an influx of immigrants coming across, a loss of life as well with that, unaccompanied children that are coming across our borders as well. And that's why the state of Texas, we are going to take Operation Control. We're going to expand our operations and try to do as much as we can as a state to focus and crack down on these criminals that are taking full advantage of these immigrants.
I'm wondering as well the makeup of those who are making their way to the border. I've told, you know, we used to think and largely think in terms of mostly Mexicans, and then we had and video of, you know, Guatemalan migrant so-called caravans making their way. And at last check, they were able to identify at least 60 different countries represented among those who were apprehended. I don't know over what period that was, Lieutenant, but can you tell us what we can make of those making their way here? Where are they from?
Well, we know for a fact that over 160 different countries that we're seeing along the southwest border. Just in the Del Rio sector alone, we've seen over 100 different countries from individuals that are coming across. So just kind of puts in perspective what we're having to deal with, not just on the state side, but also our Border Patrol agents who are just so overwhelmed with the influx of immigrants coming across from various different countries. So it's a never-ending cycle, Neil. But also in addition to that, we're having to focus on the human smuggling. We're seeing an increase in human smuggling along the southern border, more specifically here in the Del Rio sector, where human smuggling is on the rise. And they're putting these immigrants in dangerous situations by transporting them in commercial vehicles, in the trunks of cars, in wooden crates. And we've been very successful in our efforts as a state to be able to deter and interdict some of these smuggling events that have been taking place, and we've been able to rescue immigrants from trailers. That's why the governor today, launched an initiative, another initiative by the state to focus on these commercial vehicles by doing these inspections to try to crack down and try to prevent the loss of life from these human smugglers.
Incredible. I don't know how you do it, Lieutenant, but keep us posted, and we appreciate your service and that of the men and women. Lieutenant Chris Oliveira is the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Now, see, a lot of people talk about the slavery situation of bringing Africans here. We was in those ships. People are now in 18-wheelers, being suffocated, dying. Ain't no real outcry. You even got the government that's contributing to it because of politics. You know what I'm saying? Back in those days when we was on them slave ships, dying and suffocating, wasn't nobody advocating. I guess there was a few white folks over here saying it was wrong. But the bottom line is, here we are right now. Modern day slavery. Modern day slavery. And nothing appears to be working to save these people's lives. Now these people here, for the most part, might be what you call illegal. They're in them trucks. But they still should not have to die like that. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't. We was victims of the illegal activity. We weren't on them ships because we wanted to be. We was on them ships because the thieves. Although the system was okay, according to their law. But we died, some estimates say over 200 million Africans died. Now, I won't say died. Yeah, I say died. That's what they said. Died in that journey. Now, right in our faces, we looking at people dying. Not necessarily in ships, but in 18-wheelers, trucks. What do? We play politics. Run this piece here, Brother Amara, about that truck and them bodies.
What did you?
Well, why he cleaning, letting that pass by? Y'all seen it by now. And what they did, these people was crazy, man. They took spices and put the spices in there to try to disguise the odor. And some of the people wasn't dead, but 53 people ended up dead, so they say. Let's see, can we get this now?
Policies being blamed for a horrific loss of life in Texas. At least 51 migrants found dead from the sweltering heat, stacked on top of one another in an abandoned tractor trailer that had no working air conditioning or even water, in what appears to be one of the most deadly incidents of human smuggling across the southern border. 3 suspects are in custody following the terrible discovery. Every month there's been record-breaking numbers at the border, and border agents constantly say they're overwhelmed by the surge and they do not feel supported. Texas Governor Greg Abbott tweeting this: "These deaths are on Biden. They are a result of his deadly open border policies." And Senator Ted Cruz tweeting, "How many more people have to die before Dems give a damn?" The White House firing back at critics.
The fact of the matter is the border is closed, which is in part why you see people trying to make this dangerous journey using smuggling networks. We are going to stay focused on the facts and making sure that we hold these smugglers accountable.
All right, Jesse, is it fair to blame President Biden's policies?
I believe it is fair. He's a snob from Delaware. He doesn't even consider Texas a part of the country. He thinks it's our gas station. That's where they killed Kennedy. It's where they killed the ozone layer. And they're a bunch of Neanderthals. That's how he really feels about Texas. He's been to China in the last 40 years more times than he's been to our southern border. And I just don't feel like he feels great affection towards the state of Texas. And it's a mass casualty event. 40 Mexican nationals are dead.
51.
51. If that were Japanese, that were British nationals, Joe Biden would have been on the phone with their leader. Biden has not called the president of Mexico at all. AOC flew down to the border to cry on a fence because Donald Trump put adults and children in separate facilities as he was required to do under law. There's all these people dead. AOC hasn't said anything about it, and she's probably busy watching the January 6th hearings. The media doesn't even ask Joe Biden about the border, and so Joe Biden doesn't talk about the border. The media doesn't cover it because they don't want to go all the way down there. It's hard to get to, it's hot, it's dusty, and it's not glamorous to do stand-ups down there, so it's almost like it doesn't exist. Here's the solution. We have to bring all the factories that we have in China and put them in northern Mexico. We have a trade deal with Mexico. That's where their jobs will be. That solves the China problem, solves the immigration problem. Put the factories in Colombia, too. We have a trade pact with the Colombians as well. I think that solves all the problems, and he should do that. And if you're not going to secure the border, and if you're just going to throw money at a corrupt Honduran or El Salvadorian president, that's the only way you're actually going to get the migration under control.
Judge, what I get your perspective. I would like your perspective on the prosecution of the suspects that they have already apprehended. But there's got to be a connection, right? So they have the 3 people there, but there's obviously a chain that goes all the way back.
Well, I mean, what you do in a situation like that, and
all right, Amari, let's fast forward because we're gonna run out of time. Listen to all of them.
I mean,
the piece we're gonna look at now says White House pressure on border policy as surge grows with Representative Flores. Representative Flores slams Biden, but it said WH, White House pressured on border. Now, you know, this whole thing is really crazy, man. It seemed like to me, you know, under that other administration, they was working to try to do something with that border situation. But now, it don't seem, I don't think it's that far down. It's back up the other way. It'll be Flores, right there. Is that Flores there? Yeah, that one. Now this is another perspective on one of the politicians, Hispanic politicians. And then that'll be the end of the border piece. But I wanted to speak to that because Negroes have concerns about that, just like we have concerns about other issues.
With immigrants and innocent children coming into this country. Protecting our borders, securing our borders shouldn't be political. It's about saving human lives. This is why we have been saying it over and over, secure our borders to protect children from child sex trafficking, to protect people from going through a dangerous journey where they're going through hell to come here to the United States. Why would we want that? So I'll never understand the Biden administration. I'll never understand Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party encouraging people to come here to the United States illegally, knowing that they're going to go through so much abuse, knowing that they could lose their lives. Why not focus on legal immigration and improving the process so more little girls like Myra can come here to the United States for the American dream? And that is why my focus will be legal process and improving the process so more good people can come here to the United States for the American dream where they don't have to go through such dangerous journeys. So this shouldn't be political.
Now, what she says is true. We're going to end this program today with a flashback to a great occasion led by Minister Farrakhan. We're going to end it with the minister reading something called Willie Lynch letter. The reason is that I and others asked the question, how did we get to this? God damn it! How did we get in this situation? How did we find ourselves, you know, under the thumb? No, just keep going. It'll say Willie Lynch. Just keep going. It's right. How did we get there? Well, a lot of people have heard about and read the Willie Lynch letter, but I think the way Minister Farrakhan reads it, keep going. It's going to be a white background and going to say Willie Lynch. The way he reads it gives a different type of flavor. and that type of flavor might help you understand a little bit part of what is happening. And once you understand what's happening, then right here, then you'll begin to understand what you have to do to get out of this quicksand. So we'll end with this. Until next week, Alafia, peace, and good health.
A perfect union with God is the idea at the base of atonement. Now, atonement demands of us 8 steps. In fact, atonement is the 5th step in an 8-stage process. Look at our division. Not here, out there. We as a people who have been fractured, divided, and destroyed because of our division now must move toward a perfect union. Let's look at a speech delivered by a white slaveholder on the banks of the James River in 1712. 68 years before our former slave masters permitted us to join the Christian faith. Listen to what he said. He said, quote, "In my bag, I have a foolproof method of controlling black slaves. I guarantee every one of you, if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and I make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes." I want you to listen. What are those 3 things? Fear, envy, distrust. For what purpose? Control. To control who? The slave. Who is the slave? Us. Listen. He said, "These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and they will work throughout the South." Now, take this simple little list and think about it. On the top of my list is age, but it's only there because it starts with an A, and the second is color or shade. There's intelligence, sex, size of plantation, status of plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on a hill, north, east, south, or west, have fine hair or coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry it on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. Now don't forget, you must pitch the old black male against the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the female against the male, and you must use the male against the female. You must use the dark-skinned slave against the light-skinned slave, and the light-skinned slave against the dark-skinned slave. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these keys are your keys to control. Use them. Never miss an opportunity. And if used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. End of quote. So spoke Willie Lynch 283 years ago. And so as a consequence, we as a people now have been fractured, divided, and destroyed, filled with fear, distrust, and envy. Therefore, because of fear, envy, and distrust of one another, many of us as leaders, teachers, educators, pastors, and persons are still under the control mechanism of our former slave masters and their children. And now, in spite of all that division, in spite of all that divisiveness, we responded to a call. And look at what is present here today. We have here those brothers with means and those who have no means, those who are light and those who are dark, those who are educated, those who are uneducated, those who are business people, those who don't know anything about business, those who are young, those who are old, those who are scientific, those who know nothing of science, those who are religious and those who are irreligious, those who are Christian, those who are Muslim, those who are Baptist, those who are Methodist, those who are Episcopalian, those of traditional African religion. We got them all here today.
Go ahead, Brother Minister.
And why did we come? We came because we want to move toward a more perfect union. And if you notice, the press triggered every one of those divisions. You shouldn't come, you're a Christian, that's a Muslim thing. You shouldn't come, you're too intelligent to follow hate. You shouldn't come. Look at what they did. They excluded women, you see. They played all the cards. They pulled all the strings. Oh, but you better look again, Willie. There's a new black man in America today. A new black woman in America today. Now, brothers, there's a social benefit of our gathering here today, and that is that from this day forward, we can never again see ourselves through the narrow eyes of the limitation of the boundaries of our own fraternal, civic, political, religious, street organization, or professional organization. We are forced by the magnitude of what we see here today, that whenever you return to your cities and you see a black man, a black woman, don't ask him, what is your social, political, or religious affiliation, or what is your status? Know that he is your brother. And if it needs help, you are obligated to help your brother because he is your brother. You must live beyond the narrow restrictions of the divisions that have been imposed upon us.
I said a lot for you. Peace and good health. But I hope that peace